Hello, 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 everybody. Are we in? Yes. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is everybody doing today? Make sure get my microphone in the right spot. I am serious. Zoom is driving me crazy lately. Sorry about that. I am a few minutes late today. But we are going now. So, how is everybody doing today? I am super excited this week because I'm just like really, really happy. One of my friends is here in Argentina and she came for a visit. So I am super, super excited about that. I'm just like having the best week. So I hope you're excited for this week. I definitely am. I have to say, one thing I love, love, love about being an artist is that I get to make my schedule and it could be anything I want. And so that's super helpful this week because, like I said, my friend's here visiting from the US, and then Wednesday is my birthday. So I am so ready to celebrate and bring some extra joy into my life. It is just so much fun. And all of that has already started this weekend. And it's just been so nice. I have to say that one thing that these past few years have taught me is how special it is to be able to see people in person and to be able to give them an extra long hug. My friend has had a pretty crazy, intense couple of years. So it is just that much extra special to have her here and to be able to give her a long, long hug and to get some time together personally. So that's what's going on with me this week. And I wanted to talk with you today about the stories that we tell ourselves. I think this is a really good topic to kick the week off with. And yeah, this is the stories that we tell ourselves. This is one of the ways that I really like to teach members of Growth Studio how to create more possibilities in their practice. It is a powerful, powerful tool that makes a huge, huge difference in what we do in our studio. And it has a profound impact on the results that we create for ourselves in terms of everything, but especially what's probably most interesting to you is in terms of how we make a living as an artist. So I was thinking about this week because I was having a conversation with one of the artists in Growth Studio, and she said, I was pretty hesitant when you started talking about mindset. I just didn't get how it mattered to my art. And now that I see it, it is incredible how much my mindset affects every single thing I do. And I was so glad she said that because I was like, yes, that's exactly what happened. She was saying, that she was kind of skeptical. And now that she sees it, it's like she can't unsee it, and she's seeing now like how much her thinking has impacted what she thought she could do and what possibilities are open to her. And I was just like, yes, that is exactly it. It really, really matters. And so this one thing that we're going to talk about today, I'm just going to like focus in on this one thing and give you some insight into it, give you some ways of thinking about things because it is hugely, hugely impactful. Another thing that happened this week, I just got accepted into master coach training with the Life Coach School, where I got my first training. And what has been amazing for me on a very personal level is just how profoundly Coaching has changed my life, and so much so for the better. And even with, this is the thing that I think is pretty amazing, even with 2 levels of really in-depth certification and training that I've already completed. So I first got certification. I went through like a year-long program to get certified as a life coach. And then I did advanced training on top of that. And then now I'm about to go into another level of that, the master coach training. But even with all of that, I always, always, always have my own coach, somebody that I work with directly to show me my blind spots in my thinking. And it's very much like painting in that the possibilities are infinite. So one of the blind spots, one of the first blind spots that we tend to have as artists and just as humans is in the stories that we tell ourselves about who we are and the world that we live in and what we're capable of. So many times we believe our thoughts are absolute reality and we accept them as fact and don't even question if maybe they're not true. We accept them as hard, solid, and factual when most of what we believe is a story. And then so often, like we have this story, and then that story is based on another story, which is based off of an assumption that we've made. So we tell ourselves stories about who we are. As an example, some of the things that I hear artists say are things like, well, I'm not organized. I'm just a beginner. I'm an introvert. I'm not good at selling my work. I'm not good with people. I'm not good around people. I get really nervous. And they say these things as if it's just an absolute fact. And then those stories get even more elaborate. So if we take, for example, I'm not organized. What I hear people say is, well, I'm not organized, so my life is kind of a mess and I just can't get it all working together and functioning. I never know what to do. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to prioritize my work. So I'm always bouncing around between this and that and this and that. And the reason that they think that is because they think like I'm not an organized person. That's just not one of my character traits, right? And so that I'm not organized becomes the fact that everything else gets based off of. Another example that I hear really, really often is, I'm laughing because like I'm waiting for new glasses to come. And so I have like these glasses that are like really wonky right now. And I'm like, kind of like, it's a little bit disoriented. Anyway, so the other story that I hear people say is I'm an introvert, so I'm just not good around people. Like I'm just not good around people, so I can't talk about my work. I have no idea what to say. I can't promote myself. I'm just not one of those people. And no matter what I say, I feel like I come off as weird and pushy or sleazy. And I don't want to have to push people. I don't want to have to push my work onto people. And the underlying thought around that is, well, it's because I'm shy or and / I'm an introvert, right? I don't know if any of this so far sounds really familiar to you, but actually, if you want to, for those of you who are here live and you want to drop it in the chat, I would love to hear from you. Like, tell me what is some of the stories that you tell yourself about who you are as an artist, or maybe what you believe is true about your situation as an artist, what your story is about, like what you feel like is in your way of your art. We all tell ourselves stories, and the stories that we tell ourselves really, really matter, because whatever the story, whatever we believe about ourselves as an artist is what we create. And so the first step in sort of identifying any blind spots that we have is to separate the stories from the facts in our thinking, right? So we want to separate like what's really true and what are my thoughts about it. So it may be true that, like, for example, it may be true that I am an introvert, but I get to decide what that means. It may be true that I'm not inherently an organized person, but then what that means is something different. I would even question, like, for myself, like, so I'm kind of introducing this to you, this idea to you. So I might be a little bit more gentle with you about it. But even if I were really journaling on this myself, or really coaching myself, or getting coached on it, even the idea that I'm not organized, that's an opinion that I would have about myself. It's not something that's factual and true, right? It's just like I may do things that occasionally are unorganized, but me being a person that's inherently unorganized would be an opinion that I have about myself. It's not, it's a story that I tell myself. And if I'm not aware of that, then I will just live into that story. And so the reason why this is so powerful is because once we can sort of identify that, I just want to check and see if there's anything in the chat. No. Okay. So the reason that I want to identify that is because then once I realize like that's not 100% true, then that opens possibilities for me. That allows me to start going to like other things that I can create or I can believe about myself, which would then impact what I do. So as an example, when if you really believe, like, we'll take the organization one. If I really believe like I'm just not an organized person, then there are so many things about my art process that I might just think are not available to me. Or if I think I am not if I think I'm a really introverted person, and part of my beliefs about being an introverted person is that I can't connect with people easily, then anytime I get into a situation where I want to connect, I genuinely want to connect, and it's something in my best interest, and I believe that I just can't do that, then I won't see any possibilities that are open to me, and I won't behave, I'll behave as if that's not an option for me. So the reason why identifying these blind spots that we have in our thinking is so important is because when you are able to notice how much your thinking is impacted by things that aren't actually like factually true, that it's just a thought in my head, for example, then once I identify that, I now have so much more room to create possibility for myself, like when I take away the story. Because oftentimes what is left when I take away all of the stories that I tell myself is simply, okay, it might just be I'm an artist in my studio and I have a painting in front of me. And everything else that I've told myself about that is a story that may not be serving me. So once I realize that the only thing factual is I'm an artist and I'm standing in front of my painting, then I get to consider other possibilities. So same thing, like if I am at a show, like if I've created a show for myself and I am now at the opening for my show, and the only thing that's factual is I'm an artist, my work is on the wall, and there are people here. Everything else that I might tell myself about that is a story. And I want to make sure that whatever story I tell myself is empowering me, is helping me, is serving me in some way. I can choose to keep whatever stories that I want if I really think that they're helping me. But I think it's really important to always have the option to have the recognition and the awareness to say, like, wait, if I'm believing this, then what I do from that, the actions that I take, isn't getting me the result that I want. So maybe I should take a look at, like, how am I interpreting what is actually factually true about this? And it's so important because when you understand how much, when you are able to actively choose on purpose, you recognize that you have a choice, and you're allowing yourself to claim your power. And that is so important to actually have over your art practice. You get much better results, and you have so much more confidence in yourself as an artist. And that just starts to feed and feed and feed on each other. A lot of artists, so if we take like the thing that I get asked about the most often, let's say, a lot of artists don't sell their work because they have a story about what it means to offer their work for sale. So I'm wondering, like, for those of you live, how many have a story, or like how many have thoughts about, like, whether or not, like, are you selling your work? And if you are, what are you telling yourself about that? If you're not, what are you telling yourself about that? A lot of artists will go through the process. So, I mean, just imagine this, because I'm sure this will be very familiar to you. Like, you've created this body of work. In order to create that body of work, you have prioritized your time to paint. Which means that you've said no to all sorts of other things that you could have done with your time and with your resources. You've maybe even, like, now that you've created the work, then maybe you've gone on and you have either created a space for people to see it, or you have a show that you have put together. And now you've done all that work to create the paintings, which includes, obviously, the making of the paintings, right? But it also includes, like, to me, it's also about, like, what about those things that you sacrifice for, right? Because there's so many things that we could be doing with our time. We're choosing to paint. So we do all that, get the show, go to the show. And then when you get to the show, a lot of artists will kind of stop short of painting. They just, like, that's as far as they go. They're like, they resist talking about their work. They might do it, but sometimes it's kind of like begrudgingly, or they feel awkward about it. They really don't enjoy it. They don't want to do it. And you can sense it when you are talking to somebody who is not comfortable and doesn't want to be having this conversation. So you're also, like, you're kind of like giving that vibe to the person that you're talking to. So this is kind of like what happens when these are the actions that we end up taking when we're telling ourselves, like, all these stories about whether or not about what will happen at that show. So the question for all of us is kind of like, why go through all of that preparation? Why go through creating the work and reaching out to, like, organizing an event, getting people to come, and then getting there, all the things that we could, like, if you think about it, there's so many other things that we could have done with our time, with our resources, with our energy. We chose to do this. We wanted to do this. That's why we ended up doing it. We wanted to do it. And then we get there, and what we really want is to sell the work, but we stop right there. When that happens, it's because in in our minds, like, so I'm trying to think, like, in the artist's mind, there's no other options, because if they really, really believe the thoughts that are in their head, if they really, really believe, like, I don't know how to do this, I'm not the type of person that can do this, I don't know what to say, it's awkward when I talk about my work. If I really believe, like, oh my God, this is going to be so awkward, I would not want to do it. Right. So it makes absolute sense what their actions are, because they really, really believe the story at the top level. There's this story that they're telling themselves about what it means to be an artist and what they should or shouldn't say when they're at a show, and whether or not they are able, like, that, like, I as an individual, like me personally, can I go up and talk to people? Maybe I believe other people can do that, but if I believe that I'm not the person that can do that, then it's going to be really, really difficult. I'm probably not going to do it. Right. I really believe, it's like saying, I really believe that I cannot walk across a tightrope without falling off. I'm not going to get on the tightrope, right? Especially if I think there's some danger to it, right? Maybe I would, if me falling off means like a 1 foot drop, then I would probably just be like, okay, let's see, right? But if it's something that I perceive as dangerous, there's no way I'm getting on that tightrope. And so if you're convinced, if the story that you really, really believe is that either there's a high risk in talking about your work, or it's just not what you should do for whatever reason, you're not going to do it. Okay. So this is why the stories that we tell, like getting to the top level, the story, like the beliefs and the stories that we tell ourselves, and separating what actually is a story and what's factual. Just doing that has an amazing impact, because it allows you to then decide on purpose and to decide with intention what it is you want to do, or maybe just question it and think like, well, maybe like, if that's not a fact, then I have choices. And that's where our power is. That's where our power lies. So that's kind of what I wanted to dig into you with for this week in Mindset Monday, is just thinking about, like, the underlying thoughts, the stories that you tell yourself about being an artist. So some of the stories, like, it's not just like being an introvert in that situation, like being an introvert is the only reason I'm not going to be able to sell my work or create the result that I want once I get the show. It's just that if I really believe, for example, that no one is buying art, or that no one, so sometimes what I hear artists say is, no one's just, no one's buying art. Or they might, and if I push them on that, then sometimes they think, well, like at this show I was at, I didn't see anyone buy any art at the show, and it's this amazing artist, so obviously nobody's buying art, right? There's so many holes in that. And if we don't, like, catch ourselves when we say these things, then our response to it is going to be that we're not going to, that either, like, even when we're making decisions about how we're using our time, like, if we really believe no one's buying art, or I'm not the person who can sell my art, or any flavor of that, like, the art should speak for itself. That's another one, that if you believe that, and you're at a show, or you're at a venue, or you're at an art fair, and you think the art should speak for itself, then you're just going to be sitting back, and you're not going to interact with people. You're not going to talk to people. You're not going to offer the work for sale. You're not going to be like like, often what ends up happening is people, like, walk by, and the artist is just kind of sitting there, like, saying, okay, the art's going to speak for themselves. And the viewer that walks by, the potential collector, has their own stories. They might think, oh, that person isn't approachable. That person doesn't want to answer my questions about their art. They don't want to, like, I'm not smart enough to talk to an artist about their art. So therefore I'm not going to go talk to them. I'm kind of nervous and scared. Right. So it's this weird little dance that happens between these two people, these two human beings who each have their own stories that they're telling about this, about what's going on. So the problem isn't that no one is buying art. The problem isn't that an artist thinks that the problem isn't like artists are introverts, or artists are shy, or artists don't know anything about business, or artists don't know what to say. The problem is they're thinking that, for example, that no one is buying art. The problem is thinking, I don't know what to say. And if I really believe I don't know what to say, then I'm just not going to say anything. I'm just going to be quiet. Right. So really, really important to think about when you are stating something as if it is a hard and true fact, and when there is room in there for you to decide on purpose what your story is. Like, what is it? What is the actual facts about what's going on? And what is the story that I want to tell? What is the story that I want to have in my back pocket when I'm in this situation, so that I will feel differently about the situation that I'm in, and therefore I'm going to act differently, right? Really, really important ways of just sort of catching the blind spots that we tend to have and really questioning that. I'm not sure. I know a lot of, I'm trying to look, a lot of people who are in Growth Studio are familiar with Carol Dweck and her work on fixed versus growth mindset. For a second there, I was like, wait, what was it? Growth? Is it? And her work in fixed versus growth mindset. And it's very similar to that. Like, when you think that something is factual, then you're going to put it in that fixed category, where it's basically, you're going to throw your hands up and there's really nothing you can do about it. Versus if it is something that you perceive as a potentially a growth mindset, then all it is a skill to develop. And I want to say that's easy, right? But it's a skill that you can actually develop, versus this is just the way things are. Okay, so that's what I have for you today. Think about that this week while you're painting, and really think about, like, what are the stories that you're telling yourself? What is actually true about what's happening either in your studio, or the way that you're thinking about your art, or your assumptions about who you are as an artist and what you're capable of? What possibilities are open to you when you hone things down and just get to the facts, and you eliminate all of the subjective, like, so there's so many different adjectives I can use for that, like the subjective parts, the stories, the assumptions. Like, when you pull all of that out of what you're looking at or what you're responding to, then you have so much more power, and you have so much more open to you. All right, that's what I have for you this week. Have a wonderful week. Everybody have a fabulous, I know I'm going to, I'm so excited for the rest of this week. And I will talk to you soon.